RGV Unschool. In my opinion, a film school by definition is an educational institution running courses and teach film related subjects. But the context of today's rapidly changing and advancing technologies, I strongly felt there is a need to relook at both the conventional and traditional methods of film teaching. The relevance of degree given by film institutes has been debatable. The point is that no one can teach a talented person. Almost one can work on steering that person, and that's what we propose to do in Unschool. So RGV himself never worked as an assistant director, nor ever went to a film school, and yet he made trend-setting films. It's his vast experience and his very specific understanding of cinema is which we intend to both channelize and systemize at the Unschool. Unschool will be radically different and from all other film schools. While other schools teach, this school will only make students unlearn. Unlearning tradition and conventional methods is what Unschool is.
To start with, I have to confess that I was a very bad student in school. I failed twice in 10th standard, I failed twice in intermediate, and I failed twice in engineering. So I think it's very ironical that we are talking about RGV school. Though it's called Unschool, its intention is to be a school. See, right from the beginning of my career, for some reason I never said that it is the media which invented this word RGV school. And they kept on saying this film looks like RGV school, or the director is from RGV school, or things like that, as RGV school and shortly this thing. I never ever really thought I mean, filmmaking can be taught, because it is an expression of the person, how he wants to tell a story. So the idea for me here is, when I never ever had any training, and there are many other directors like that. So what they are thinking from inside, an expression which converts into the various forms of cinematic art, whether it is camera work or music or whatever it is, And when I met film institute students from all over the place, I'm not naming one particular institute, I felt they're just following very old classical patterns of teaching. They expect them to understand very old time directors, like Battleship Potemkin. I'm not demeaning them. Of course, they were great films for the time. But I don't think cinema today is about what it was intended when it started. There's a lot of comments involved, there's a lot of people's expectations, a lot of people's expectations for various reasons. So I think today it's a professional course. It's not no more a passion, just passion about an art. It's not that. So I think it's equally important to understand what made a blockbuster work. That doesn't mean one school is going to teach how to make a blockbuster. But I think it's important to analyze it. It's important to, kind of dissect it and make the students understand what do they want to do. Do they want to become an Eisenstein, or do they want to become Rajmouli? Or do they want to learn from Citizen Kane? Or do they want to learn from PK, for example? So I think Unschool will be very radical. It will be exactly doing the opposite of what conventional film institutes will be doing. And that precisely comes from my thought process of not me wanting to teach, or the Unschool wants you to teach otherwise. When Shweta used this word to make them unlearn, like instinctively people have something, and then traditionally people try to make people understand something else. What you are thinking is wrong, you should think like this. That is what schools do, that's what institutes do. But the Unschool's point is to somehow make the students understand what their thinking is right, and to only be able to tell them or guide them or steer them what it is about, then it obviously means it's unschool on another way. You know, I'll share a small anecdote. When in Shiva, when I broke many rules, you know, I didn't know even left and right of camera sometimes when I was directing my debut film. So even my technicians used to tell Nagarjuna and everyone that he doesn't even know left and right, how can he direct? And he doesn't know the basics or fundamentals of making, you know. And after the film work, they said that's new age. They said that's new age technique, you know. Now, why did I break the rules? Actually, I didn't break the rules. I didn't know the rules. So when I didn't know the rules, I just followed my heart and how I want to see it, you know. And that became whatever it became, you know. So similarly, I think any story or any given thing, different filmmakers are going to treat it differently, and their sensibilities will be different, and their way of wanting to capture will be different. Their taste in music will be different. So the idea is to make them discover a filmmaker in themselves rather than trying to push a filmmaker into them. No. Any of the great filmmakers, when you're inspired or impressed or whatever one thinks, the bottom line is, so the thing is, one, you can be impressed, influenced, but you can also be impressed by a very unknown director, not necessarily what the institutes have determined as these are great directors. These are because they got awards or they got something. You can be inspired from a short film who nobody knows who made it. You know, so you are taking in things from whatever influenced you and impressed you, and you are trying to assimilate and absorb that. So Unschool will develop a process of doing that and systemize it, like what she said. You know, systemize and channelize a very radical and a very anarchic kind of thinking, you know, without having any rules and any kind of a disciplinary functions, for example, you know. So because of my reputation, if I am starting a school, because I am first of all a rowdy, you know, someone called me a celluloid terrorist. You know, it's true, I don't know, it's true. But I hope and I intend through the Unschool to make, I mean, very, very individualistic. You know, when a lot of people say, only after RGV came, assistant directors started sitting with them and call me and call this you know, they develop an attitude and, you know, arrogance and all that, you know. Now, because I am attracting people who have an individual attitude, I hate that very slave-like culture which normally people have, you know. So my, again coming back to this, when there are so many institutes, why start another institute if anyone asks that question? Precisely, I think the very title of the institute and also the 4 lines which is written in terms of professing its objectives itself will tell this is going to be unlike anything anyone has seen or experienced, and in terms of content generation or whatever it is, I think it will have methods which have never been heard of before. All those details will be given in about 20 days in a website which will be put up at a certain time, you know, and how the process will start and where it will be, and all those details will come at a later stage. But this press meet is primarily intended for people to know about the idea, and we are inviting people to apply on what kind of a criteria we require for people to apply, and what will be the selection process based on what needs to be. So we are trying to gather those applicants so that we zero in on who in a sensibility, who in a psychological pattern, whatever the Unschool is looking for, you know. We want to choose the students who we want to be a part of the Unschool based on a certain examination, you know, and that is what the principal idea of this particular press meet is. So, any questions?
Many crafts, చాలా crafts ఉన్నాయి కదా.
Yeah.
Institute level craft.
You see, I feel the main principal crafts in Unschool will be acting, directing, music, cinematography, editing, sound design. You know, any of the parts where you require a certain individualistic, approach and a point of view, how you want to use them as storytelling elements. All that will be a part of the Unschool.
You are not offering writing courses?
It might happen in the later stage, not in the initial courses, because I feel writing for me is a point of the thing. The filmmaker himself should write. I somehow feel the writer should not be separate, especially when they call a cinema is it's a visual medium, and the sound and picture has to go together, and if the person who is writing cannot imagine the picture, I am fundamentally of this belief that they cannot be separated. The director should be the writer. If at all he has a writer, I don't think it should be a part of the, he's taking a professional writer. Yeah.
When she first proposed the idea for starting the school,
Yeah.
what was your initial reaction? Considering that you never...
I initially, when she approached Shweta, she's not really from a film background or anything. I was first surprised, like she's based in New York, she does lots of fashion shows and things like that, And I was always against something like, to teach or things like that. And I never saw myself, because I used to sit in the back of the classroom and throw chalk pieces at my lecturers. That's my only experience in school. So for me to suddenly think of me as pretending to be a kind of a person who can make people learn, then she said, but that is not what I'm asking you to do. I'm just asking you to be yourself. And that is different. And the way you look at films, the way you explain films, or the way what it means to you is what the system of the Unschool should be. Which is why it will be different from anything else. So because I'm traditionally against all film institutes and the kind of teaching, I'm generally against education itself.
If at all somebody wants to research himself, he can stand before the mirror. Why should he join Unschool?
What? But that's the point. The Unschool is going to teach how he can be himself, because most of the people don't seem to have that. See, if in 30 years I can't make you understand as a journalist, what...
Would the fee structure be nominal? What is the basis?
See, we haven't come to the fee structure yet, because there's a lot of things being planned by the way it is completely done, and it will be, of course, different for different things in terms of, because like I said, none of them will be like what we used to like hearing a 6-month course, 1-year course, or there could be, probably there'll be something like only for the duration of one project, and that project can happen very fast or very soon, depending upon the complexity of it, depending upon the person who's doing it, So it will be it won't operate like 6 months, 1 year, 2 weeks. Something can be only for 2 days maybe. I'm just giving an example, So that is the reason it's being called Unschool. Nothing will operate like a school or an institute. All those details are being worked on, which will be shared very soon.
Only Hyderabad, Bombay.
See, today's time, I think it's not like classrooms. It's not like of course there will be a lot of physical interaction in places. It will happen at least in 4 different places, and including the US. Yeah.
4 different places. Hyderabad is included.
Hyderabad, Bombay, and in New York, where she is from, and one other place we have yet to decide.
Yes, would be closely associated with all the schools.
Yeah. ఏదండి రెగ్యులర్ అంటే మరి అంటే see the point is when I'm just releasing one press note, మీకు కూడా ఇస్తాను అది. There are 10 questions or 7 questions to be answered to apply for this school, and directly based on their answers they will be shortlisted, and then there will be further examined. And then what? Yeah. Actually, now that you asked me, just as an example, I want to read a few questions what will be asked of for the applicants of the school. ఇప్పుడు మామూలుగా I mean, not that one will so okay. Name 10 best films that you really liked or were influenced by. This is to know the applicant's taste and sensibility. Name 3 of the worst films and write 2 or 3 lines on each of them and why you did not like them. The reasons will give a peek into the applicant's analytical intelligence. సినిమా ఎందుకు నచ్చలేదు అని చెప్పడం కూడా కళే. నచ్చలేదు, బాగుంది, బాగాలేదు, చెత్తగా ఉందంటే అయిపోయింది. ఎందుకు నచ్చలేదు అని చెప్పినప్పుడు యూ విల్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ది అనాలిసిస్ పవర్. యూనో వాట్ ఈస్ ద లాస్ట్ ఫ్లాప్ ఫిల్మ్ యూ లైక్డ్ అండ్ వై? ఇప్పుడు కొన్ని బ్యాడ్ సినిమా నచ్చిన ఉంటారు కదా, ఆబ్వియస్లీ తనకేదో కనెక్ట్ అయింది, మనకు తెలియదు. యూనో ఉదాహరణకి ఆగ్ నచ్చినోడు కూడా నాకు ఒకటి కలిసాడు, ఒకడే కలిసాడు. ఆగ్ సినిమా నచ్చినోడు కూడా ఒకడు కలిసాడు. నేను అది ఫోటో పెట్టుకుని ఇంట్లో దేవుడి పట్టణం తీసి అది పెట్టుకున్నాను. What is the last flop film you liked and why? This is to test the degree of intelligence in one's honesty. అంటే ఫ్లాప్స్ నాకు నచ్చింది, ఎందుకు నచ్చింది అంటే ఆనెస్ట్గా చెప్పగలిగితే ఆబ్వియస్లీ దట్ ఈస్ అ క్రైటీరియా యు ఆర్ లుకింగ్ ఫర్ ఇన్ ద పర్సన్. What is the last hit film you hated and why? This is to test how strongly one is opinionated. Can you mention one scene in any film which you think has been very well directed and give your reasons? This is to test how much one actually understands directing is about. చాలా బాగా డైరెక్ట్ చేశారండి, బట్ డైరెక్షన్ అంటే తెలుసు అసలు నీకు ఫస్ట్ అప్పుడు ఏం చేసారు చెప్పు, ఒకసారి నాకు అర్థమయ్యేది చెప్పు, అది దట్స్ ద పాయింట్. అండ్ దెన్ if you were to shoot Satya now after 20 years today's available technology, ఏం కెమెరాస్ యూజ్ చేస్తావు and how many days? So today in the internet everybody knows how films are made, they see the making and many people make independent films. So even before coming to the institute, does he really have some understanding of how films are made? వాళ్ళ ప్రాక్టికాలిటీ ఎంతవరకు తెలుసు అని అడగటానికి this question is designed for that. No? As a first attempt, what kind of film would you like to make and why? This is to understand a degree of one's ambition. So కొత్తగా వచ్చాడు నేను బాహుబలి తీస్తాను వస్తాడా, మై అంబిషన్ ఇస్ టు మేక్ బాహుబలి అంటే చాలా చాలా అంబిషియస్, యూనో. అండ్ దెన్ వై అని అడిగినప్పుడు ఈ ల్యావ్ టు ఆన్సర్ నేను రాజమౌళి కన్నా బెటర్ అని అనుకుంటాను అంటాడా. అంటే అప్పుడు దాన్ని బట్టి ఆడు ఏ అంతస్తులో ఉన్నాడో తెలుస్తుంది. యూనో నేను అప్పుడు అదేంటి అప్పుడు వీ విల్ హ్యావ్ ఎన్ సెకండరీ క్వశ్చన్. అంటే ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు వస్తే మరి పాపం రాజమౌళి కెరీర్ ఏమైపోతుంది, రాజమౌళి పట్టుకొట్టడానికి వస్తున్నావు నువ్వు ఇండస్ట్రీలోకి. సో దే లాట్ ఆఫ్ దీస్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ థింగ్స్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ టు ప్రొవోక్ అండ్ I mean what do you call provocate a certain thing to get to know the real inside of him, and in this selection process they'll be carefully taken out. So these are some of the questions whatever I said, just to give an example.
Is the shortage of faculty?
Yeah.
Faculty will shortage the chance to hire, considering that
Faculty what?
people who teach different streams, not exactly teaching, different levels.
See, that is exactly the point. They won't be teachers.
Yeah.
There will be it will be a very very interactive kind of a process. There will be a very very one-to-one level in terms of interaction and all that. It is not like you're putting a bunch of people there. It will be almost like a it doesn't sound right in a moral sense, but the nearest example I can give, it is like a terrorist outfit. It is like a radical terrorist, Tora Bora mountains laga untadu. I'm not saying about the place. The point is, it's like to imagine each individual as a separate filmmaker, and there could be the interaction will be at most on a one-to-one, maybe on a personal physical level, or on giving him a project. ఇప్పుడు ఒకసారి సెల్ ఫోన్ ఇచ్చి if we ask him to just take whoever you want and give me a 2-minute short film and only use the cell phone. Somebody might be given something as complex as a visual effects film and ask him to. That is when I said the projects might differ in terms of what, you know. So everything will be taken independently as a project work by itself, like you're giving a contract out to that particular thing. And Unschool will be providing the information which he might not have, you know, a guidance which he might not have in some issues, you know, because any person who has passion can come and join the Unschool, you know. And if you go back a little to schooling, for example, 4 years I was in engineering college, so I'm supposed to be a civil engineer because I have a degree, and I don't know the mixture of cement concrete, but I have a degree. So ikkada point entante, when you go to an institute, they will commonly teach everybody something which people might not be interested in. నీ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఏంటి నువ్వు నాకు చెప్పు ఫస్ట్. ఆ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ బట్టి నేను నేర్పిస్తాను, కానీ నువ్వు ఏం నేర్చుకోవాలనుకున్నా నేను చెప్పను. That for me is the fundamental difference between Unschool and any other school. So which is the reason I am saying this system is geared for teaching on almost a one-to-one level. And one-to-one ante classroom lo eddaru undadu antledu. You should not imagine it as a classroom to start with. That's the whole point. But those details will come to know later.
What is the motto, sir? What is the motto behind this?
Motto is I want to make lot of terrorists and lead them into the film industry. I want to create lot of terrorists. Huh? No, I don't want to create. Varma is just one of them. But I believe there are thousands of people who think like me. They're just not capable because they don't want to go through that whole process of it and they're lost. సో వాళ్ళందరినీ ఎలాగో రప్పించి ఆ చేతికి ఒక గన్ ఇచ్చి మీ మీద వదిలేస్తాం.
స్కూల్లో కదా ట్రైనింగ్ అవ్వకపోయినా బ్లాక్ బస్టర్ హిట్లు కొట్టారు కదా, సో అంత అవసరం అంటారు స్కూల్
100% అవసరం అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఈవెన్ ఐ హ్యాడ్ ఎ స్కూల్. నా స్కూల్ ఏంటి, దట్స్ ద హోల్ థింగ్ ఐఎమ్ సేయింగ్. I was not born with some talent or knowledge. I learned something in the theatres. I learned something in the people I met. Because my uncle was a film buff and he happened to be taking me to a lot of films. So every person will have different experiences. Every person will have his own sensibility, you know, his own IQ level. Prati okkariki vere untadu kabatti each of them has to be taken separately as a case study. Which is the reason I said ఇప్పుడు ఎడ్యుకేషన్లో ఐ ఫీల్ అసలు ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఎందుకు అనేది ఫస్ట్ నేర్పించాలి. అది నేర్పించుకున్న చదువు పాఠాలు నేర్చుకో, ఎగ్జామ్ రాసి నీకు ఎన్ని మార్కులు రావాలంటే వాట్ ఈస్ ఇట్ నాన్ సెన్స్. వై డూ నీడ్ టు బి ఎడ్యుకేటెడ్, యూ షుడ్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఫస్ట్, యునో. సో ఐ విల్ దట్ హోల్ ప్రాసెస్ సంథింగ్ బికాజ్ cinema is something my subject and I have 30 years of experience, good, bad, ugly and flop films and hit films, whatever I made. Out of all that experience, I systemized it not to teach but to make people unlearn, like I said. ఇప్పుడు నేను 30 yearsలో నేర్చుకున్న ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్, ఇఫ్ యూ కెన్ మేనేజ్ టు గివ్ ఇట్ విత్ అన్స్కూల్ ఫర్ ఎ పర్సన్ ఆన్ day 1, he obviously can develop from that. He doesn't need to go through my entire experience. ఏదండి Unschool వాళ్ళుగా, that is precisely the point. With offer obviously will come directly depending upon his talent. Offer is not given on charity. You see, నేను ఆఫర్ ఇవ్వను, వాడుకుంటా. ఆడి దగ్గర టాలెంట్ ఉందని తెలిస్తే ఆడికి తెలిసే లోపల నేను ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేసి డబ్బులు చేసుకుంటా.
Is Unschool affordable to the poor students like me?
పూర్ స్టూడెంట్ అని చెప్పారు కానీ మీ క్వాలిఫికేషన్ రాదు ఫస్ట్. అలాగే అడుక్కునే మెంటాలిటీ ఉంటే మా దగ్గరికి రావద్దు. పూర్ స్టూడెంట్ అరే affordability obviously will depend upon that specific thing.
Other schools, there are Ramananda school is there, there is Prasad school start చేశారు. వీళ్ళందరూ కూడా ఇందులో ఉన్న టైంలో మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేస్తారు. అక్కడ కొంత అన్అకాడబిలిటీ ఉంది కొంత ఈ లెవెల్లో మీరు హౌ యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు బి నియర్ టు ద పీపుల్.
See, that directly will depend upon each project, and that is more, I think, Shweta Reddy's prerogative, because I am just the creative head. I am not into administration and the financial part. Yeah.
చేతాది చెప్పండి.
We'll work on it and get back.
Are you going to teach?
Me, I am going to unteach. Adi chestunanu. Teach ane word I have a problem. I only want to talk. I'll tell you honestly. I only will talk about my flops. I won't talk about my hits in this. ఎందుకంటే హిట్లు అని చూసారు ఆల్రెడీ, నాకు తెలిసింది. నేను ఫ్లాప్ తీసాను, నేను కొంచెం టాలెంటెడ్ డైరెక్టరే అయినా కూడా ఫ్లాప్ ఎందుకు తీసాను అని నేను మాట్లాడితే దే విల్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఫ్రమ్ దట్ మోర్ దెన్ మై హిట్ ఫిల్మ్స్. ఏం చేయకూడదో నేర్చుకోవడానికి బెటర్. ఏం చేయొచ్చో ఆల్రెడీ చూసావు సినిమాను, మళ్ళీ ఇంకేం చెప్పేది. నేను ఆ రోజు శివ సినిమా తీసినప్పుడు అని చెప్పాను అనుకోండి, అరే వద్దురా శివ 2006 ఎందుకు తీసాను, దాంట్లోంచి యూ విల్ లెర్న్ మోర్. And so you got your point? Thanks.